As a longtime user of Microsoft Windows, one of the things that I often find frustrating is when I use one of the software programs that's installed on my computer and then I create a file and I save the file using all the defaults, immediately I'm struck with where did my file go and how do I get it back? Let's say I want to find it in File Explorer and I want to copy it somewhere or upload it to a website, or I just want to open the file again and continue editing. It can be very hard to find the file, and I wanted to spend a few moments to talk about some of the reasons why the way that Windows is designed to work contributes to this confusion. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run Notepad. And in Notepad, I'm just going to create a new document. And file save. I'm not changing any of the defaults. It has a default folder already. We can look at that kind of stuff, but for this use case, we're just going to assume that we didn't pay attention to any of that stuff, and we just hit save and close the file, and it's gone. Okay, what is my file and where is it? Now I can see that it's sitting there on my desktop because that's what the default folder was selected in Notepad. That may not always be the case. It just happened to be the case in this time. But let's say we don't notice that our desktop is possibly cluttered with lots of other files and I don't know where it went. So I'm going to hit the the start button, and I don't even know what the name of the file was. Now, one of the things you would expect, and this has happened in previous versions of Windows, but not this one, is that the recently used file list, which is supposed to be down here, should show you, hey, here's the file that you just created, and you can see the name on it and click it. But it's not. That's not the way this Windows version 11 of Windows works. Let me see if I can click more. Same thing. I don't see my file listed anywhere here in the recommended list. If I hit the start button again, and let's say I remembered what the name of the file was, and I type this, notice how it came up in the most recently used list if I knew what the name of the file was. If I type the first few letters of the document in the prompt here, the best match list will show me, here's my document, and I can click on it and open it. And here it is. Okay, so that's one way to find it, is remember what the file name was and use that to, in the start button, to reopen it. Another thing that you can do is run Notepad again and create another new document and file save as, and look and see what the default, because the default should be the same as it was when I created the first document, and you can click up here and see that it is currently using my desktop as the default location for them. There are a whole bunch of other options you could select in this drop down, but by default it's using the desktop, at which point, oh, I know where my desktop is, it's over here, and there's my document. That's another way to look for it. Let's try a different example. Delete these things, delete that file, and let's try creating a Word document. So I'll just create a new blank document. I'll hit the save button. And notice that the default location is different. This is a different application, different program, and it has a different set of defaults. It has a default file name. I'm going to, let's say I give it a file name that I recognize. Let's say it's my assignment for this class. assignment.docx, and I don't do anything, and I hit the save button. Then I close Word. Now, it's not on my desktop here because the default for Word was set to a different folder. So this might be a little bit more challenging. So let me hit the Start button again. Again, you would think that in the list down here it would show you what's the most likely file that you're going to try to open next, the one you were recently working on. But for whatever reason, it doesn't show up here. When I select More, same thing, it doesn't show up here. So I named it Assignment, so let's try the trick of typing Assignment. Okay, it showed up in the list, and I can see what folder it saved it to, so that's a good trick for finding out. Now, one of the things to realize about this list, Windows, when you start typing, Windows is going to go off to all of its places that it knows to look, and it's going to look for something that's a good match for what you've typed into that box. It may take a while. I've seen it take as long as 30-45 seconds once I type the exact name of the file for that file to show up in the best match list. This is because it knows about your local files on your hard drive and it tries those first. In parallel, it's going to your OneDrive, your Google Drive. It may have to go over the internet to try to find out, hey, OneDrive, do you know of any files that match this? And it may take it a while to collate all those results and come back with the file. So you have to be a little bit patient there. Take a sip of your coffee and wait. This one came back pretty quickly, but like I said, I've personally seen it take 30 to 45 seconds for the exact file name to show up in this list. Another thing that I wanted to point out about files is when you are looking at a folder, let's say I go to the folder that document is in, and here it is. But you notice how I can see the file name extensions on all of these files, so I can tell exactly what type of file each one is. If I say View, Show, File Name Extensions and turn that off, it just looks like a bunch of file names now. That can be very confusing, especially when your teacher says, I need you to upload a file that's of file type docx, document X. I can't see the file extension on these files. That is the default setting for most Windows users when they are using their computer with a default installation of Windows. I suggest highly that each of you goes to this View menu, go to the Show menu, and turn on file name extensions so that you can see what the file name extension of these files are. I've seen people that have tried to get this right, and they type docx and docx, and they keep doing this because it doesn't show up, and then they try to upload it and it's got too many of them and it just isn't working, and that can be a source of great frustration just because you can't see what the exact file extension is of the file. So if you just turn that simple option on, again, it's View, Show, File Name Extensions. Make sure the checkbox is here. That will hopefully save you some frustration getting your files managed. And the technique of managing your files and your file types and file naming and file locations and understanding this tree and where files live and where they go, where the default is for various programs. It's not an assignment you'll see in any classes, but it's a very important skill to learn to get familiar with Windows and get familiar with your computer in order to be successful with your classes. I hope that has helped and eases some of your frustration and helps you be more successful in your class, and I'll see you in the classroom.